Over the past decade, a succession of familiar-looking buildings have been spotted among the numerous images depicting China's rapid development. While architects have always used other buildings for inspiration, these Chinese works of architecture go much, much further, and are actually intended to directly replicate some of the world's most iconic structures. These many, and mainly European-inspired copies, are often the centerpieces of new Chinese towns. However, in some cases, entire cities have been reproduced. Incredibly, these buildings are not theme parks. People actually work and live inside these structures. Here we take a closer look at the Chinese copycat phenomenon and count down the top 10 most head-turning replicas. To Westerners, the approach of replicating an existing building with such accuracy is difficult to understand. However, according to Bianca Bosca, the author of Original Copies, Architectural Mimicry in Contemporary China, the country sees its replicas in a very different light. In China, a long history of replication means that copying isn't viewed with such hostility. In fact, according to Bosca, the Chinese replicas are not homages to the originals or the result of a lack of imagination, they may be more a statement of power and control. The buildings are intended to demonstrate that China is so powerful that it can create and figuratively own the best architecture the world has ever created. We kick off our list of Chinese copycats with one of a succession of monuments that have appeared in Huaxi, known as China's wealthiest village. Huaxi is a known hotspot for mimic architecture and contains several suspect copies, including a reasonably good-looking replica of Paris's famous Arc de Triomphe. Huaxi's other replicas include an attempt at recreating Sydney's Opera House. Surprisingly, it is not only international buildings that are being replicated. The village also contains a recreation of Beijing's Tiananmen Square rostrum. In 2015, the village of Huaxi unveiled its latest attraction, a 2.5-mile long replica of perhaps the country's best-known monument, the Great Wall of China. Although the replica is 13,000 miles short of the original, apparently many tourists have been convinced that it is the real thing. Next on our list is a building that takes inspiration from one of the most famous landmarks in neighbouring Russia. In a suburb of Beijing, an office complex has been built to closely resemble Moscow's Kremlin. This replica has a less glamorous purpose than the real deal, with the Gold Dome complex housing the local government's seismological, weather, water and landscaping bureaus. At number 6 on our list is a building that combines elements of two of America's most famous buildings. The Shanghai Minhang People's Court is a replica of the US Capitol building in Washington, DC, with a little bit of the White House thrown in for good measure. Not content with simply copying individual buildings, entire towns are being created that closely resemble European cities. At Tiananmen, near Shanghai, a gated community called Little Paris was built in 2007. The centrepiece of this new town is a 354-foot tall replica of the Eiffel Tower. About 30 kilometres, or 19 miles, out of Shanghai sits another gated community similar to Little Paris. This development, designed for a population of 10,000 people, is inspired by a British market town. The town is complete with cobbled streets, Victorian terraces, corner shops, a pub, and even a fish and chip shop. At its centre is a replica of the Gothic Christ Church in Bristol. Apparently this spot has become a firm favourite among couples taking their wedding photos. While the majority of buildings featured on this list seem like harmless fun, this building represents a far more serious trend. In 2015, Zaha Hadid Architects' WANGJING SOHO Towers, a major office and retail hub in Beijing, was opened. However, before it was even completed, a very convincing replica had appeared in Chongqing, southwest China. One of the earliest examples of Chinese copycat architecture dates back to 1994. 40 years after the original Le Corbusier designed RONCHAMP chapel was built, one of the most important works of modernism reappeared in ZHENGZHOU. The replica building no longer exists, as the foundation Le Corbusier, which owns the rights to the design, sued for its demolition. Topping our list, as not only the most impressive, but also the most interesting and somewhat creepy piece of replica architecture, is the recreation of Tower Bridge, which was opened in 2012. While the original stands elegantly across the River Thames in London, this extremely detailed replica is actually mutated with 4 towers, each 40 metres tall. If you know of any examples of copycat architecture, please share them in the comments below. And don't forget that if you enjoyed this video and would like to get more from the definitive video channel for construction, you can subscribe free to the B1M.